So granted everything is ready, the plan right now is to install Active Directory and promote our DC01 as a domain controller. So with that being said, let's click on DC01 and let's get logged into this guy real quick as our local administrator. And when you're logged in, go ahead and open up Server Manager and then go on Manage and add rules and features. Oh, it looks like it's loading in the background. Give it a little time here. Let's click on Add Rules and Features. There we go. All right. Click Next, Role-Based or Feature-Based Installation, and select your DC01 from here. In my case, it's going to be ZackNet-DC01, and I got the static IP address as well. And we will hit Next. And what we want to do is install Active Directory Domain Services and add features. Hit Next and make sure that group policy management is enabled. And hit Next and disregard the restart because we will do that ourselves. And hit Install. And do be mindful that it might take a little bit of a few minutes. Alright, so it looks like it completed successfully. So hit Close. And then click on this flag. And then on this flag, we want to promote the server to a domain controller. And then over here, we want to add a new forest. And we will call this guy ZackNet.lab. And hit Next. And then we want to keep the forest function level and the domain function level to Windows Server 2025. And make sure you note down the DSRM password because that's a very valuable password to do some maintenance work on server-side settings. And the domain name system and global catalog, we want to keep it as checkmarked, and we're not really messing with the read-only domain controller. So let's type in our DSRM password. And hit Next. And don't really worry about DNS delegation at this point, because this is our first domain controller. And the net BIOS name, it's going to be a short for the ZackNet.lab. So this is the short, ZackNet. And then we'll go hit Next. And the paths, we want to keep it in the local repository of the C drive, and hit Next, and hit Next again. And it's going to do a prerequisite check to make sure everything's good and dandy, and to give you the green light to install. So it's looking like that the prerequisite checks were passed successfully, and we will hit Install on this guy. Alright, it says you're about to be signed out. Someone hit close and hit close over here. Let's see what the flag says. Flag says that the configuration has been completed for Active Directory and that the installation has been succeeded. So we will go ahead and restart this guy. All right, so after a restart, let's go ahead and log in, but we're not going to log into the local account. We're going to log in with the domain account. So click Other User, and your username or your account should have gotten transferred over. And make sure you're signing into the domain and hit Enter. And then it's really important to check your DNS. So what I want to do is I want to go on DNS, and I'm going to expand our domain name. So it's good that I'm seeing this over here. I want to look at the forward lookup zone and expand that. So I'm seeing the domain name on here, and I'm also seeing my DC01 with the A record and with a static IP address. So that is awesome. And one more thing I want to do is I want to run CMD. And then on command prompt, I want to look up my domain. So go ahead and type in nslookup space your domain name. And it looks like the DNS request timed out. That is not good. And I know why it's doing that. Hint, hint, hint. It's because we have IP6 enabled. So let's go to our network adapter. And then right click and go on properties. And I want to disable IPv6. I'll hit OK. And now let's give that a shot. Boom. Looks like it's working now. The server is going to be localhost. Address is our loopback address. And the name, it comes up with our domain name. So that's a good sign. All right, so before we get into other things, there's one more thing I want to do. I want to make sure that our local user account, which is a local machine user account, and then the domain administrator account, it's going to be different. And I know this can get really confusing. So click on Tools, and then go on Active Directory, Users and Computers, and expand your domain. And then go on Users. So now you see an administrator on here, and you see another administrator on here. What's the difference? Look at the group memberships. It's a member of administrators. Okay. And then this guy right here, it's a member of enterprise admins that has the ability to do group policy. It's a schema admin. And this is like the super admin account. Okay. So I'm going to probably use this administrator account and assign this. So let's go ahead and do a reset password on this guy. And then looks like that the account is unlocked, so it is active. And what I am going to do is I'm going to log in as that administrator account. In a standard world, some organizations like to not use the super admin account. Obviously, if someone hijacks it, it could be catastrophic. But since we are in a lab environment and I'm just doing basic configs, it's recommended to use the super admin account. Okay? So I'll log in as administrator. And then I'll go back on Active Directory users and computers. And in users, I can probably choose to keep this, or I can disable it. let's go ahead and disable this account for right now. Okay? So just letting you know, this one belongs to the domain. It's not the same as the local admin on the workstation. Okay? This is a domain account. So moving forward, what we're going to do is we are going to be using the administrator account for domain purposes, at least for the section of this video. And then more later, once we get into the setup and the different OUs and configuration for Active Directory, we will go into more detail on what we need to do. But for right now, let's hover over to our DCO2 and promote that guy as the domain controller. So get logged in with your local administrator account. And then what we're going to do is we will do the same thing we did. Okay? Which is we are going to go on manage and then add roles and features and hit next. Hit next. And we want to install it. We want to install the role and feature on ZackNet DCO2 with this static IP address. So hit next. And what we want to do is we want to install Active Directory domain services for the feature. So add that. That looks good so far. Hit next and install. All right, so it looks like it's done installing and it requires configuration. So hit close on this guy and we will click the flag and we will promote the server to a domain controller with a difference. We're going to add a domain controller to an existing domain. This is the only difference that we're doing. And let's type in our domain name that we choose. And let's type in our domain name that we selected earlier. Now we'll go with the admin credentials. And you also have to supply the credentials. So that administrator account with the super admin privileges, that's the one we're going to use. Next on this guy, and you will type in the DSRM password that we talked about earlier. And next, and replicate from obviously DCO1. Keep it as default and hit next. And it's going to do a health check to give you a green signal if everything's good to go or not. And all prerequisite checks passed successfully, and we can begin installation. So you're probably wondering what this message means right here. Well, it means is that Windows is trying to reach external DNS to create a DNS delegation. A pointer record that tells the rest of the world or a parent domain that this new server is authoritative for ZackNet.lab. Because we're setting it up as a .lab, which is a top-level domain, there's no public or authoritative parent. So the DNS server exists on the internet or like the local network to, like, it does not exist at all to take that delegation. So because you're creating a self-contained domain environment, ZackNet.lab, this server will be its own root authority for that namespace, and it doesn't need like an external parent zone to traffic it out. Now, if we were trying to integrate this with a corporate or existing parent DNS, then in that case, we would have to create a DNS record zone pointing to the server. So in our case, it's isolated. So in our case, it's an isolated lab and an internal environment. So there's like no action required whatsoever. Perfect. So it looks like the server was successfully configured as a domain controller. So what we are going to do is we are going to hit restart on this guy. All right, so after a reboot, let's go ahead and log in with our domain administrator account. Perfect, so it looks like it's logging in and it's logged in. Now, because we have two domain controllers, we want to test that our domain is working, and we're going to test replication. So let's go on PowerShell and run PowerShell as administrator. And we will type in rep admin rep l summary. And what we see is 0 failures right here. Okay, and let's do the same on DCO1. We will go on PowerShell and test out our replication to see if it's working or not. And we have 0 failures. And with this being said, we have Active Directory and DNS pretty much running on DCO1 and DCO2 successfully.